past and should be saved. In this series, you'll meet families facing the challenge of a lifetime.
Oh. There we are, done and done.
$500,000 on this, are we mad?
They'll quickly realise the sheer scale of the project.
Not quite what I meant.
As they restore these ruins to family homes. I'm Sabella Court. I'm a designer, author, lover of old houses and restoration. I'm passionate about old buildings and the need to save our history. To succeed, our families must learn dying heritage skills and stick to budget.
He just likes to spend the money.
Bastards. Bastards. Bastards.
It's a slow train wreck.
Can they rescue their slice of Australia's history before it's too late? This is Restoration Australia. Tasmania. Beautiful, remote and home to more heritage-listed buildings than any other state in Australia. "25 years ago, you could snap up a piece of heritage real estate here for next to nothing. So that's what Sydney antique dealer Hayden Pearce did.
You've got to grab things when they come along, and history like this doesn't grow on trees.
But Hayden is buying old buildings faster than he can restore them.
We discuss it, but I tell her what we have to buy in the end.
I'm sort of getting to the stage where I've had enough.
Hayden's wife, Penny, just wants somewhere to call home.
This is the kitchen area.
Now there's a little building that might answer her prayer.
He laughs.
But her dream looks like a nightmare. 121 Harrington Street is one of the oldest timber buildings left in Hobart's CBD. Built almost 160 years ago, it's a beautiful example of neo-Gothic architecture. But Harrington Street has been neglected. Vacant and derelict, the little shop has been the victim of 2 arson attacks. It's now an eyesore whose existence hangs in the balance. If Harrington Street is to avoid demolition and become a home, owners Hayden and Penny need to act now. So this is it?
This is the place, this is the place.
Yeah, well, it looks like an ambitious project.
Oh, don't say that.
What attracted you to the property?
Just the architecture of the building. I mean, Gothic Revival is just the prettiest little building, and it's just so rare to find anything like this, especially in timber. This is the dado. You can see the fire damage.
And look how wide those boards are.
Huge, huge.
Were there some standout features that just caught your attention?
Oh, totally. The dormer windows, the old shop front, the rosettes.
Can I open it?
Yeah, beautiful. Straight out
Don't be scared?
straight out of the showroom.
It's not easy to see past the damage here.
Beautiful old blue in there, like it's a render and then it's a plaster.
But once your eyes start to seek out that detail,
A line wash.
when you move through the space, the Gothic essence of this building is palpable. And what is through here?
That's a little kitchenette and a bathroom.
But I think Hayden's very ambitious. Harrington Street started as a 2-storey Georgian brick residence, built around 1857. The front timber addition was completed by 1875. Hayden and Penny plan to make the downstairs an antique shop. They will turn the upstairs section into their home. So when did you purchase this property?
It was about 18 years ago. The real estate agent took me in and opened it up and turned the lights on, and I walked around in amazement. What a fantastic building. And he looked at me and he said, "My God, you're the first person that hasn't run out screaming." Anyway, so we made a silly offer and they started talking to us, and we ended up buying it on a credit card.
Hayden paid just $50,000 for Harrington Street.
Everything was so cheap back then. Every time we got close to doing something to the building,
Something else
would come up.
So you didn't mean to sit on it for 18 years?
No, the idea was always to do it up.
Do you have a time frame for this job?
It's not that big a job. I mean, it looks horrific, and you know, if we can do it in 12 months, it'd be great.
So do you both have a budget in mind?
We have a lot of the materials and a lot of work that Hayden will be doing. but no budget.
Look, it'll cost what it'll cost, and the main thing is to keep servicing the debt and be able to afford it. And if we can do that, well, great.
Gentle.
Yep, that's it.
This side's loose.
Yep, okay, this one's off, so now we need to get the other side off. Okay, so it's just pinned at the top now.
The next day, the immense job of resurrecting Harrington Street begins.
Jump around the other side, just roll that up and see if we've got...
Hayden is removing what was the original Pew and Pine staircase.
Roll the whole lot.
It's a rare timber today, so the heritage loss is significant.
Not quite what I meant. Good. There ain't much left.
Andrew Zacharek, or Zach, is a scientist turned heritage carpenter. He's Hayden's right-hand man on the project.
What we've got here is an incredibly strong, solid building. Even with a fire, and a hot fire, it's really just charred the timbers on the outside. I mean, they're so much bigger than you'd put in this same timber in a modern house.
Really?
We'll need to make sure that these are okay, and then we'll work upwards.
Removing so much burnt building is a devastating way to start a restoration.
Look at those nails. Blacksmith made. Beautiful.
I think Hayden's prediction of finishing this project in 12 months may be unrealistic,
Jesus. Hey, coming off in a hurry.
given that he has a track record of not finishing projects at all.
No, too low. Come on, Eric, let's go.
When Hayden settled in Tasmania more than 20 years ago with Penny and their 2 young children, this outsider instantly saw the island's real estate potential.
When I left Sydney, I could not even hope to afford to buy a house. In my first sandstone building down here in Tasmania, it cost us $20,000 with 3 acres. So the idea was to try and buy as much as we could before the prices went up.
His buying has turned into a spree that is stretching finances and testing his relationship with Penny.
Hayden collects houses like people collect art. You know, he just comes home and tells me he's bought something.
As well as Harrington, he owns a 180-year-old farm in the Southern Midlands.
He told me, this is all I want, I won't go anywhere else.
Then 6 years ago, he borrowed heavily to buy 5 more heritage buildings in a complex called Willow Court. It was Australia's oldest mental asylum.
Well, this is the morgue in the asylum. We're going to turn it into a motel.
But Hayden's asylum also needs a lot of work. The buildings are in various stages of being restored, not ready to be used or sold.
I told Penny it would be 2 years and we'd be in and out, and here we are 6 years later.
Hayden's have-to-have philosophy has left them with over $1 million in mortgages and more work than most can do in a lifetime.
Huge amounts of work.
Reduced meat for Hobart, so everything on the raft.
His track record has Penny wondering if she will ever call Harrington Street home.
Hayden doesn't seem to worry about how we, live. All he cares about is buying stock and buying buildings. It's been 25 years and I'm sort of getting to the stage where I've had enough of not looking after ourselves and having a place where it's nice to come home to. Now, we live in the shop.
The shop where they live is their antique business in one of their buildings at Willow Court.
Some classics here.
Yeah, I've been trying to find this one for ages. I was really stoked to find that one.
In the shop, Penny is working hard. Her challenge is to make more money than Hayden spends. The better the cash flow, the sooner Penny can call Harrington Street home.
If we sell well, we can have 5 people working there. If we don't sell well, progress will be a lot slower.
But just how long can Harrington Street afford to take? 2011 serves as a reminder of the price you pay for neglect.
We got a phone call at 2 or 3 in the morning from a detective to tell us that the place was burning.
I can still remember thinking, oh my God, what are we going to find when we get there? Is it just a little fire or is it all gone?
And of course, there it was, still flames coming out of it. It was a mess. Of course, the detective, with a smile on his face, sort of said, well, how much was it insured for? And I said, well, it wasn't. And then he had this puzzled look on his face. But The intention was always to restore it.
I guess my biggest disappointment is that we did take so long to do anything to it, and if we had restored it, it wouldn't have burnt down. But this is another thing on Hayden's list, you see.
While Hayden paid $50,000 for Harrington Street, it's now worth $500,000. At that price, he could sell and take some pressure off his finances. But not Hayden.
The fire started on the staircase.
He lives and breathes heritage buildings, which is why he's ready for a fight.
Heritage Tasmania seem hell-bent on taking it off their heritage list. They are trying to shed problematic buildings.
And if it's delisted, it's just left open then unless we keep it, and it can be demolished.
Today, Heritage Tasmania, they're coming here to come and have a look at the building. It's a big day for us. I guess we'll see what they say and put forward some arguments and see if we can talk some sense to them.
I can restore it and I can save it while I'm here, but when I'm gone, if this building is not heritage listed, then anybody can demolish it. And this is the last timber building in the CBD, and if you let this go, you're letting the fabric of Hobart disappear.
Hayden's a bit of an outsider. He's a bit rough and he doesn't suffer fools, but he brings a passion and incredible knowledge.
If they delist us, we will fight them, and they know that, and they'll fall on their sword.
I presume everybody has presumed that I started the fire for want of getting rid of the building and taking the insurance, although there was no insurance. Maybe I forgot.
And there was no evidence to suggest that.
Well, and there would be none.
For the chair of the Heritage Council, Di Snowden, it's the fire damage to the shop's facade that is of greatest concern.
See, originally there would have been fluted columns. You can actually see where the little column was.
One of the problems that we have where a place has been partially destroyed is that when it's made good and there's new fabric, we have to consider whether it is still a heritage building or not.
Well, when you're faced with things that are not there, then you have to replace.
2 months into the restoration, Hayden, Zach and friends are 25 kilometres west of Hobart in the Lachlan Valley.
There's some old pine trees here, Macacarpa pine. They seeded the Macacarpa pine trees as windbreaks, and now they've come to the end of their useful age as such and starting to fall down and die. So we've had the farmers given us permission to come up here and cut our timbers that we need for Harrington Street.
The pine will be used to replace fire-damaged timbers, including the framing, the weatherboards and the staircase.
It's a good use for the trees. In the past, they just burn them and push them over and let them rot.
With the timber free and Zach and friends charging mates rates, today will save Hayden tens of thousands of dollars.
This timber here is only a few miles away from where we're going to use it. It's in the same climate, so they'll be good for another 100 years with a bit of luck.
The pine from the valley will need to dry for a couple of months before it can be used. Back at Harrington Street, Zach is cutting stringy bark milled from Hayden's old farm property. It's being used to replace all the joists in the 2 front rooms.
Yep, thank you.
While the floor goes in, the old paint is being steamed off the walls.
So you're basically melting the paints and anything off. Brings us back to the original fabrics to be able to work with and rebuild from there. Bring it in. Okay.
During all the activity on site, Hayden's had several conversations with the Heritage Council. He's used his own brand of charm to extract some news on the delisting.
They wanted to make a meeting for next week, so I said, no, I don't want to have a meeting for next week. I want to know what the delisting was. 10 minutes later, Diane rings me back and tells me that they haven't taken it off their heritage listing. They've kept it on, which is great. It's about time they've come to their senses. So we're still on the heritage and the building's got a future.
The last time I visited was 3 months ago, and it doesn't look like much more has happened. But I can hear some pretty positive sounds coming from inside. Hi, Hayden.
Hey! Hi, Sabella, how are you?
At the moment, there's no safe access to upstairs. and being pregnant, I'm sticking to the ground floor.
This front room, we haven't really done an awful lot in here, but it would be nice just to be able to put up some plasterboard and have it done in the day.
Wow, this room feels... I know Hayden's got a reputation for not finishing things because he has too much on the go.
What happened to the floor?
The floor.
But I can see another reason why time might blow out.
This was actually black when you came in here last.
The man doesn't cut corners.
The original colours, I love them.
They're great, aren't they?
Yeah.
And so once we do a little bit of rendering and plastering, then we can get back to all those original colours. Even though pink's not my colour either, but, you know, it's still nice.
Yeah, something nice about the history. This door is incredible.
Isn't it great? Yeah, it's a beautiful prison door that we got from the Hobart jail that they so thoughtfully demolished back in the 1960s.
Wow, lucky you picked it up.
Beautiful heavy iron.
Yeah.
And the hot rivets.
Rivets?
To hold the steel plate on the back of it. So that should keep the bogans out, you reckon?
I think it will.
Let's hope.
Hayden has been collecting architectural antiques from old buildings for years. It's given him a huge supply of features and timbers he and Zach can use for Harrington.
Is that cedar?
It is, yeah, Georgian cedar.
Yeah.
Some of the collection is local, while many pieces have come from Sydney and even more been sourced from the UK. Every year, Hayden and Penny visit the UK. It's their own antique roadshow, buying for their business in Tasmania.
We're 10,000 miles away from home, on the Welsh border in England, and we're here to buy.
Aussie antique dealers have cash, will travel, interested in your antiques.
What would you offer me for that?
A lady rang us from our ad that we put in the local paper,
£5.
and she said that she had a few bits of china and bits and pieces, and her husband might have something in the sheds for us as well. So we've come out to the Welsh borders to have a look.
How you doing?
Hey, Mick, is it?
Yeah.
How you doing? Hayden and Penny.
Nice to meet you.
Good to see you. Every day is another exciting day here in the UK because it is a treasure hunt and you never know what you're going to find. Ah, well, quick, keep the poker face, Penny. Don't say anything. God, look at it all.
A little bit crowded in here, like, but...
Stuff everywhere.
There's always a lot of rubbish as well as good bits and pieces, but you just have to sort of ferret through and find anything that's interesting. There you go. She's found something now.
Head of flat irons. That'd be interesting.
That's the old fire fender, yes, nice.
That might be Harrington Street.
That would be a good one. It's very much colonial design, and that's pretty much what they had in Hobart. We have a list of things that we have to buy for Harrington Street. We're talking doors and fire surrounds and specific bits and pieces. A lot of the Welsh and the English came out to Tasmania and settled there, and they brought their goods with them. And so the stuff here is very similar to what we have there. 9 irons. £3.50 each for the irons.
£5. Can't go £3.50.
Okay, £4.
No, £5. It's inflation, man.
Well, it's inflation from $3.50 to
inflation.
$4
Yeah, but
is inflation.
No. £5 apiece.
$5 a piece.
Yeah.
Okay.
You happy with this now?
Yep. Well, thank you very much.
You've robbed me. You're all the same, you know. Our Welsh heritage is going now, see?
Yeah, well, it's going to a better place.
No.
The business is giving us the money to pay for the renovations.
And if we can pick up items for the building, which we have, you know, doors and things, so it's a bonus.
How's that, eh?
Hayden's pleased to have scored items like this Victorian toilet for Harrington Street. But it will be 8 weeks before the container arrives in Hobart and they can start making money.
We just take both out and then replace them both, and that one can come out.
6 months in, and work at Harrington has moved upstairs. The framing for the roof is in the final stages.
They just have to join up here, but this one's staying.
That one stays, yeah, because from here down it's okay.
It's not like building from the top down. You've got to look at an old structure to see where it's not good enough. You've got to pull the old bits out and fit new bits in. But there's enough of the old stuff that it is essentially the old building. It's just had a lot of repair.
Today marks a huge milestone in the Harrington Street restoration. For the last 3 years, the blue tarp has covered the building. Now work on the roof means it's about to come off. While the team's set to work, another of Hayden's friends, Marlon, is putting the finishing touches on a mural.
We've had a few reports in the paper saying how bad we are about leaving the place. But little do they know that we're actually working on it. We've put a little painting on the front, trying to sort of give a picture of roughly what the shop front will look like.
When you get a call from Hayden, it's you have to ask yourself, am I prepared to be roped into his enthusiasm? And I usually am. I wanted to just do some reflections of things across the road and still make it look like the shop front that it used to be. He realised that people were getting a little bit sort of sick of seeing it abandoned looking and wanted to appease a few of the local people.
You know, just a little bit of a joke, I guess, but tongue-in-cheek.
While passers-by take in the mural, the job of removing the tarp is in full swing.
That's good. That's the way. Good work. Yeah.
Nice hue and pine.
Beautiful. A bit more. And we should be right.
You grab that other corner and pull it out a bit.
For former scientist Zach, carpentry was a late career change. This is his first major project.
I was awake at 4, sort of planning this day in the sequence of what we were going to do and how far we were going to get.
Hey! Take off to that.
It's a shame that we had to go so far backwards in the fire, but we're here now and we have to keep pushing forward. Feet on it.
There you go. Right.
With the tarp off, the old tin can be removed.
Okay.
These all loose, are they? I want to get the roof on as quickly as possible, for rain, for security.
It was arson when the place burnt, and so it's always in your mind that, you know, that person could come back. So hopefully we can have it tinned up before winter sets in. Roll it up, please.
Hayden plans to replace the old tin with recycled tin, but the original roof was made with wooden shingles.
They used to split the stringy bark into very thin shingles, usually about 5 or 6 inches wide, and they'd nail them on, and that was basically the finished roofing. We wouldn't really use them today because they are a fire risk, and they tend to leak a little bit anyway, and would be very expensive and time-consuming. It's just too prohibitive to be able to do that, and too impractical, really. Come on, Harry, quick, let's go!
So Hayden is definite about using tin. Until the next day.
I've been thinking, Zach, that maybe we could actually put shingles on the roof instead of tin.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think about that? Timber shingles instead of corrugated iron. I mean, how beautiful would that be?
This isn't just a bright idea you have at the pub over a couple of beers, a couple of Guinnesses
But if you're
at the
going to
New
do
City
something,
Hotel.
do it well.
It would look awesome if it's a really good shingle roof. And I think to get a really good shingle roof, you've got to know all the ins and outs. How long is it going to take? And how much is it going to cost?
Yeah.
And
well, it's obviously going to cost a whole arm and leg more. That's the problem.
I mean, we thought we'd get a tin roof in a few weeks. But if we're talking...
It takes 6 months.
Months and months and months.
It would add months. It's
Yeah.
got to be finished.
It's got to be absorbed.
It does.
It's got to be done. Well, that's it.
Despite the choice of shingles threatening to blow the budget and delay putting a roof on, the next day Hayden calls in the expert.
All the shingles I've split over the years were 4.5 inches wide.
Yeah. Okay.
It depends on the building, you see.
John Graham has been making shingle roofs for 50 years and has come to Willow Court to give Zach and Hayden an idea of what's involved in splitting the shingles.
I could knock up 1,000 a day if I had all the billets ready.
Right.
How fast would a beginner split them?
You do about 3 a day, Zach.
Oh, I was thinking of you, mate. I'll be too busy building.
I reckon they'll be lucky to get a couple, 100 or 200, depends on the person.
It's a reality check.
I'll have a go.
Hayden first.
John thinks that Harrington Street will need more than 14,000 shingles.
Yeah, put it where you had it before.
Yeah.
That'll do. Now press down on him. That's it. That's what I like to hear. Now
Push it. Okay, so I've just cut 4. So what's that? That's about 14,787 to go, I think. Hey.
Back at the antique centre, Penny's feeling the pressure. The container was held up in customs, and it's taken 4 months to have the new stock available for sale.
It is very stressful. I don't think Hayden actually realises how much, I've managed this place, keeping the books happening and, paying things and the bills. He's got no idea. He just likes to spend the money. When I tell him, stop buying, I put the computer on the next morning and there's another 10 items he's bought. And I thought, what don't you understand about not buying? He doesn't understand.
Well, there's always financial strain. Penny's always hopping mad at me for buying another something. But, well, you know, it's just a bit of fun.
Okay, Hayden, first sheet. Beautiful. It's cut to size.
While Penny works to balance the budget, Hayden continues down the costly and time-consuming path of shingles.
It'll be lovely with shingles. It'll be a really pretty little building. And I always thought galvanised iron was the bane of all evil. I mean, it is ugly. Any chance you could roll that out?
I thought he was joking. I'm still reluctantly following on, but we're doing shingles and that's it. But it's going to take us a lot more time.
Okay. You've got about 5 layers of materials that actually go on before the shingles go on.
How about there for a tick?
Okay. Which will be a long time coming.
Yeah. Is the level all right?
Yeah, it's not too bad. That looks pretty close.
Yeah.
Until Harrington Street is watertight and vandal-proof, it remains vulnerable. Almost 18 months since Harrington Street was started, Hayden's prediction of finishing in a year now seems ambitious. But there has been some progress, and this time I'm able to go upstairs.
Wow, I couldn't come up here last time.
No, well, nobody could, really.
The top floor took the brunt of the fire.
Certainly the place was pretty well charcoaled. The brick walls are good, but otherwise pretty much the apex was burnt out.
But there's one section of timber, probably the most defining piece of this building, that has survived.
So what can you salvage from these?
We're salvaging virtually everything. You can see the definition's been lost a bit with the fire, but that'll still work.
It's got a much softer shape now, doesn't it?
lot
It's quite
softer.
organic.
Well, it almost looks like a 500-year-old window out of the UK or something now, because it's been so weathered.
So what's this room going to be?
This is the dining room and kitchen area, and what we're doing here is from this raft to here, we'll be putting in a 4-metre dormer window that was burnt out, that was there.
So replicating the original?
Yes.
The dormer windows were a later addition to the building, around the turn of the 20th century. This is the first chance I've had to get a good look at them.
And you can see where the top of this dormer, we've gone and rebuilt the top because the top was totally burnt off. Now we just have to fix the facades and so forth. But
You've almost got a whole one here that you can copy it from.
well, that's it. If it had burnt for another 20 minutes, we would have had probably none, you know.
To avoid another fire, Hayden needs a roof on quickly. But he's been distracted. North of Hobart, yet another building, one dear to Hayden's heart, is demanding attention.
Well, this is my father's place. An 1830s gem of Tasmania. A beautiful old sandstone building. I'd like to see it retained in the family.
Hayden's father, Norman, has passed away. He's the 3rd member of Hayden's family to be buried here.
My brother passed away in a car accident about 14, 15 years ago. So he's up there, and then my mother's up there, and now my father's up there. So I would hope that maybe I could be planted up there at some stage.
Earth to earth, dust to dust. We give thanks for his life.
Why do I keep taking on projects? Because what else would I be doing? The end point is being placed in a box, isn't it, you know? The thing is that I'm enjoying what I'm doing. And if it doesn't get finished, I'm not too worried about it. And I guess if you finish it, there's always that feeling that you might do it wrong anyway. So it's all about the journey, I think.
But Penny is hoping that Harrington Street will be different. That unlike his other projects, it will be more than a journey. She wants a home.
Everybody wanted it pulled down, and he's like, no, I'm going to rebuild it. We've come so far in the last 12 months that he really desperately wants to show everybody that, yes, I'm going to finish this and have this wonderful building in Hobart.
It's 12 months into the restoration. Instead of having the project finished by now as planned, Hayden has let Harrington Street slip.
Will you be seeing some differences then?
Oh, I can see already.
His visits have dropped off, and now he's in the UK again, sourcing another container load of antiques.
I think you were still finishing the roof when I was last here. So who's actually going to do all the plastering?
Don't know.
Hayden hasn't been at Harrington Street a lot of the time.
There's a lot to do.
And he knows that. He knows he's had a bit of a slack winter not being there. And the only way that he's going to get Harrington Street done is by being there himself. Because Zach and Tony, they need some decisions made on the spot. And Hayden's not there.
There's the old render. the original,
okay.
and we just blended it. So we'll just check that that's all right when Hayden gets back. He's not spending a lot of time here. I guess he's doing other things, earning the money to pay us. I can understand that, but really I think I need him a bit more hands-on here.
It's not just Hayden's absence that's holding up the work.
I haven't seen this before today.
His decision to put shingles on the roof instead of tin is threatening to derail the whole project.
So this is probably 10% or something?
I think it's a bit over 10% of what we need. It's a slow train wreck. I think it's a stuffer, and I wish we could just kind of backtrack and go up and put the tin up and just leave it
Well,
there.
if this is slowing up everything else being finished.
Well, it has already.
It has, yeah.
It has. Why should I kill myself to push on when other people can make decisions to slow the job down? And at some point I've got to go out and earn a decent wage, and what do I do?
For Penny, the question is not when, but if this project will be finished.
25 years of marriage, and I've never lived in a house that's actually got a proper kitchen.
There are going to be 4 sash windows here. Yep. As
And this is the kitchen area.
This is your kitchen, yeah.
So this will be interesting, trying to fit out. I'm looking forward to designing this and having something new. I'd like to paint a scene on here of old Hobart Town rooftops. We've got to get this building done, and we don't want to have another fire in there because it's been sitting there not finished, because it's still at the stage where somebody could easily break into it, but we need to have it finished and we need to be using it. This week, he's going to have to make that decision, can the shingles, go tin, and then everything can be done. He hasn't got the time he needs.
So you're about there, you see?
From where the beat starts.
After 4 weeks in the UK, Hayden is back in Hobart.
Yeah, that's better.
Don't change your mind again.
Yeah, no, 25 will be good.
It's 18 months since work started at Harrington Street. The macrocarpa timber that Hayden milled is dry and being used to make weatherboards. Zach is working to replace the staircase that was destroyed in the fire.
The staircase is a bit technical. It's a bit of a challenge for me. Every step, every piece of timber should be exactly the same size and in exactly the same place as the original.
The new stairs are also being made from the macrocarpa.
No, well, that was pretty good.
The restoration has so far cost less than $80,000. For Hayden, using his own materials and doing a lot of the work himself is paying off, but it takes time.
You just ooze it through the little gaps in the timber, and that's what makes it hang on.
The lath and plaster walls are a traditional feature that could take months to restore. Despite the workload, Hayden is dragged away again. It's Hobart's lucrative summer tourist season.
Padlock, does it work, do you think?
Lovely old Victorian padlock.
It's time to make money to pay for their building work.
Look, I could probably do that for 45.
Yeah, 45.
45.
At Harrington Street, a frustrated Zach continues work on the staircase.
I've made most of the pieces and not far away from putting it in place, although if I put the staircase in place and we've still got water coming in, it may get some rain damage, so we don't want that. We need to wait for Hayden to get his act together and make a decision on the roof, and we need to get going on it.
Zach has to be one of the most patient builders I've ever met, but the lack of direction from Hayden is clearly wearing him down. But finally, Zach's patience is rewarded. It's a year later than planned, but the roof is going on.
We were going to do shingles. We've basically run out of time, we've run out of money, and we've run out of time and money. I hate going with brand new stuff, and we were lucky enough to get 100 sheets of really good tin. And Zach looks really excited.
I'm not sure I can be pleased about the project at this stage because there's still a lot to do, but I'm relieved that we can get on.
Using recycled tin gives the roof instant character, and the tin cost just $200. By comparison, just 1/10 of the shingles he needs cost Hayden $2,000. With the roof going up, the original Gothic wooden barge board is put back in place. Hayden has also uncovered the sign, Thompson Motors, the name of a garage that was the most recent incarnation of a little shop that's had many lives and is beginning to look like it will have another.
I don't think that the building would have happened if it hadn't been for Zach. You know, Hayden needed somebody else there to push him along. And yeah, Zach's been great. He's pushed him along and it's got to this stage.
It's not too heavy, eh? Yeah. Yep. Just straighten her up and then we'll push that end out.
The roof on means that Harrington Street is now weatherproof. The staircase that Zach has been working on can finally go in.
A little bit forward and then gently lower it. I'm excited to be getting this staircase up today. That'll be a really big milestone. And this staircase is the last bit of structural work in the building.
I'll catch it.
So what we're going to do first is we're going to put the upper one in. Hopefully that will just slide into place. I've fitted the pieces individually, but I haven't fitted the flights in place yet, so I'm not 100% sure that everything's going to fit together first time. Just slip it down gently. Yeah, okay. Keep it going. That's good.
The weight of the staircase makes manoeuvring tricky. It's a team effort to get the top flight into place.
Time for us to lift up, isn't it? Yeah. That's it.
Yeah. Yep. Right. Hold it there.
That's the way.
Hold there.
Looks good.
The top stair is a snug fit, but the bottom flight needs a bit of a nudge.
How are we going?
Well, it's lined up. It just needs to go in now. I've got a 10-ton jack in the car.
Right.
That'll push it over.
Yeah. All right.
Oh yeah, you can have that one. Yeah, that'll do.
I think it's all right.
Make sure you're about 2 mil out, I reckon. You want to bring that over. Hey, that's it.
After months of tension between Hayden and Zach, sharing this piece of progress feels good.
Hey Hayden, how many steps did you want?
Isn't there 18?
Yeah, that's 17, 18. Cool.
I told you it was supposed to be 19.
19. You can't have 19.
With the roof and the stairs finished, there remains just one major structural piece to do, the front window. Harrington Street has been without a shop front window for 60 years. Rebuilding the 28-pane frame using traditional joinery is a specialist job, but Hayden's got other ideas.
I'm going to be building the shop front. The problem being that I can't find anybody that wants to do it cheap enough. I can't find it that anybody wants to do it properly. Come on, up there. Come on. I haven't tackled a window of that size. Come to think of it, I've never built a window before. I don't think Zach's very confident, but well, you know, it's probably not a big point, so...
He thinks he can do it, so it's up to him. I can do what I can do here, and he has to do his bit.
What can happen? How bad can it be?
It's possible that Hayden may just be baiting Zach, but he is too busy to bite. While he works to put the last of the weatherboard on the dormers, he can only hope Hayden will make a sensible decision on the window.
It would have been a lot easier if that job was outsourced to a joiner. Maybe he was just playing with my head.
Just 3 weeks later, the window frame arrives.
Hey, where do you want to put it? In the front of the shop, of course. You did you? Yeah. Not that heavy, is it?
It turns out the window frame wasn't made by Hayden. Instead, he ended up paying a reasonable $5,000 to have it made.
Is it going to fit? Doesn't look like it, does it?
Didn't you do the measurements, Hayden?
Even for experienced joiner Jono, it was a big job.
Looks good. It looks right.
Hayden's a bit of a traditionalist and he wanted it to be made just as it would have been made in the old days, so if I was to build it again, I'd probably charge double.
With the frame delivered, it's now up to Zach, Hayden and Tony to make it fit.
Okay, come my way a bit. Pull the whole thing down my way a bit.
It's just catching right at the top. It's just a bit tight because the wood comes down. We could plane 5 mil off the top of the window frame, or the sill.
I really need to plane a couple of mil off that sill.
Yeah.
Where we put that glue, so...
Okay.
Making the adjustment to fit the window is pretty straightforward, unless you get distracted.
Yep, not supposed to do that either. There you go. Hello. Oh, yeah, great. Yep, window's going well. FC Holden, $500. Yep. Okay, we'll talk to you a bit.
Up to 5?
Okay, see ya. Cheers. FC Holden, Gumtree, $500. Quick. Stop work. Let's go. Brighton.
FC Holden. Got your bodies wrong again.
FC Holden, that's right.
How far across do you want to come?
Same at the top, 15 to 18 at the top. Yeah, and I've got 20 tapering down to about 12.
Despite his difficulty in focusing on one thing at a time, Hayden has achieved yet another milestone with the window.
Well, you got your window after all, Hayden.
Yeah, well done.
Thank you.
Cheers.
Yeah.
Thanks,
It's
guys.
the last big piece of the puzzle.
Yeah, nice one. Well, took a load off my mind to not have to build it myself. Like a baller.
Look original, don't they now?
But he's done a really good job. Thompson Motors would be probably about the last business in there.
It's beautiful. Zach's partner Jo has come to admire the window. She's yet another person willing to donate some time and will help to paint the shop front.
So glass is coming. Be here this afternoon. So I'll be glazing all night. Fantastic.
While he didn't build the window frame, Hayden will do the glazing.
Oh, well, let's get back into it. Come on, let's go.
With so much progress, it begs the question.
Is Penny going to get her kitchen anytime soon? No, I think is the answer to that one. I guess Penny's priority is different to my priorities. When are we going to do that? Once we get everything else done, maybe?
Last thing done.
Last thing done.
Penny may not have her kitchen yet, but heading back to Harrington Street for the last time, I know that, like me, she's amazed the project has come this far.
Yep.
Wow. This is looking amazing.
Right.
It looks incredible.
It's come together really well, hasn't it?
Well done.
Isn't it great?
Oh, but look at the windows.
121 Harrington Street, an unlikely survivor. The phoenix of restorations. After 2 years, it might not be finished, but it's already a major restoration achievement.
So different. It's a shop
It is
now.
a shop.
It is.
Having this is sort of, you feel like you've given the building its life back.
And it's its first impressions as well.
It is.
And it has a roof on it as
And
well.
it has a roof on it.
It might not be the roof that I expected to be on it,
I know.
but we've done all the base work underneath that roof for shingles. So at a later date, when I'm older and sillier and richer, with a bit of luck,
And a lot more time.
and a lot more time, we can go back there and revisit and do it.
Oh, this room's cosy. Is it going to be part of the shop?
It will be part of the shop. At the moment, we've just got it as a lounge room.
Yeah.
But no, it will be a flow through from the shop.
And the dado looks beautiful.
Most of it's the original hue and pine dado.
And have you done a lath and plaster ceiling in here?
Walls and ceiling are in lath and plaster, yes.
Is this the original paintwork here?
That's the original colour here,
Okay.
yes. And
Like
nice
an
little
ochre.
goldy
Yeah.
sort of ochre colour. And so what we'll do is just put a wash on it, but leave, you can sort of see it through
Mottled.
it. Yeah, mottled look,
Yeah,
yes.
beautiful.
Replacing the timbers lost in the fire could have made this a very expensive restoration, but having a cachet of recycled fittings and milling his own new timbers saved Hayden tens of thousands of dollars. So far, Penny thinks they've spent just over $80,000. They're not sure how much the building will cost to finish,
Oh, wow. They look amazing.
but Hayden will continue to keep costs down by doing work himself.
They're really good. Very happy with them. It looks like a 400-year-old building now.
It's beautiful.
this is obviously the bathroom.
This will be the bathroom, yes.
Because that's a pretty incredible piece in itself.
It's a great toilet. They're really hard to buy in the UK. They're so expensive.
The toilet is a nod to the future when the house will be finished. But all alone, it also serves to remind how much is still to be done. So will this be the kitchen that you've always dreamed of?
Yeah, this is the kitchen. It's got a roof.
It's finished. This is the kitchen. Here it is.
Look,
it's fantastic.
Everything that you need.
It's the kitchen that I've always dreamed of, and here it is.
Yeah, well, this is probably in the forecourt.
You might take on all the stress, and Hayden, you're just having a fun time. Do you think that is the balance of the relationship?
I get very resentful of him.
You shouldn't be stressed. I mean, and I say Penny shouldn't be stressed because...
Yeah, but you're not doing what I do, and you've got no idea what I do, because you don't do it. This is our bedroom.
Oh, wow.
What can I do? I work very hard to make things happen for you, and here it is. And so, you know, if I'm the big bad man, well, you know, it's what can I say?
How long have you been married?
25 years now.
Congratulations.
Well done. I forgot that.
Oh, you missed that
Thank you
day.
so much.
Just get the house finished and the kitchen finished to my liking, and then I'll be happy.
Sure.
I think the only way that Penny's going to get her long-awaited kitchen is if she and Zach tackle it together while Hayden's away overseas.
Zach's great, and he's learnt a lot of skills, and I've learnt as well off him, and yeah, recommend him to anybody once I'm finished.
Once you let him go.
Yeah, which would be probably about 10 years' time, I would suggest.
Would you do another project with Hayden?
I contemplated. I think it took a special person to hang on to this building when there were no friends for the building. I think it shows people who own heritage buildings that you can bring something back from the grave.
Hopefully Hobart can forgive us for taking so long, but it's still here, and it will look, you know, beautiful when it's finished.
Hayden and Penny have pulled off something extraordinary. Against all odds, they've saved this little house and its unique history, not just for themselves, but also for the people of Hobart.
Old houses need to be used or they die. Which reminds me, we've got a couple of others that need a little bit of work as well.
Yeah, well, that's next year.
Next year.